That's all right. Mr. Chairman and friends, I'm free. I feel free to call you friends. I think we all are. I've served my people, Tsimshians, Tlingits, and Haidas, and the interior group with that opportunity that I had to make a contribution to improve our conditions in our legislature, in our former government here in Alaska. And when I first got elected to the House, I hesitated. I didn't think I had the background to represent the people. But very fortunately, in my activities as a young man, I sang, I fished, and I finally got a job on the cannery tenders for the big cannery operators. Therefore, I learned both sides of our conditions in Alaska. And I was green. I'll admit that in those days, I didn't know what to do, but I could see that some of the conditions that we were working under, my people was working under, needed a change, but I didn't know how to go about it. And I don't know why I acquired such a feeling, but it seems like that somebody spoke to me, and Frank, you have a future, and maybe you can make a contribution to better our conditions. And lo and behold, that happened. I worked for Libby McNeil and Libby as a captain on the boats, on a cannery tender, and I was packing the fish, seeing the fish from way up north here, all the way down to Craig Cannery or Libby's. And finally, when we brought down a deck load, for some reason, they did not unload the fish right away, immediately. The superintendent came down and said, Frank, you just tie up here for a while, and we'll take care of you later. Lo and behold, they never showed up for half a day. Finally, 4 men with pitchforks, pews we call them, came aboard, and I said, Frank, let's go around the point over here. Now, mind you, I had about 14,000 humpies aboard, deck load on a cannery tender. We went around the point. I didn't ask questions, but I figured there was something wrong. And they started to pitch this fish overboard. They just throwed it away. Now, that occurred 3 times, and I couldn't stand it any longer. So I went to the Bureau of Fisheries. And I don't mind mentioning the name. His name was Anderson. I says, I came here to make a complaint. We pitched a good fish overboard, 2-3 trips now, 14,000 a deck load, just thrown overboard. The reason they doing that is because the traps are doing well and they're canning the trap fish. And my people got families, they're going to school, they live under certain conditions, needs improvement, and this is the only opportunity they have to make a few dollars when they're sane, and here they're sitting home for 2 weeks. And I want to make a complaint about Libby McNeil pitching this fish overboard. And then after I got through, he says, you realize what you're saying? You're going to lose your job. Now, this Bureau of Fisheries man told me that. And I says to him, Miss Anderson, I'm a single man. I have a family. My father and mother's alive, but I don't need this job. And I hate to see what's transpiring here, because some of these people are sitting on the beach, got families, and they're going to school, and they need money to carry on. Some of them going to University of Washington. And what's happening is wrong. And he says, you know, this means that you're going to lose your job. I repeat that again. And I says, I don't care. I'm single anyway. So they didn't do a thing about it. So I quit. I just walked off the job and quit. Now, I want to also emphasize the fact how much control that they had, that the big operators had in Alaska. even though we had our governor, our legislature, but yet the big corporation was running in our particular area, the fisheries canneries and so forth. So that was true in further north, whatever resources they had, even though we had our own government, the operators controlled it. Now those are the things that I make comparison now with what I see here today and what I went through in my time, and I just come to conclusions, what a wonderful improvement. And another thing, am I taking up too much time?
You can take all the time you want.
Okay.
Peratrovich.
And I make the comparison, and I can see where an improvement has been brought about, not by the Caucasians, I call them. I got nothing against them, but then I'm speaking the truth. We saw that there was room for improvement. For that reason, we got organized. Again, I refer to it in my own area. The Saints got together and they formed a union. And I had no attention to it, but finally one day they came to me and said, "Frank, we want you to serve with us in our union. We want you to be the chairman." And I said, "I have no experience in that, but I certainly approve of what you want to do." So I accepted that. And it went along for 2 years. We had this fishermen's union, and we were very successful. We had members from Wrangell, Petersburg, and all over. And one convention we had at Craig, the chairman got up on the rostrum and he says, "We've gained ground, we've corrected some of these conditions that's been against us in our line of work, but we still got plenty of work ahead of us to correct. For that reason, I'm suggesting," the chairman said, "that we put up a candidate to run for the legislature. And that man is going to be Frank Peratrovich." Now, I had no experience in politics, but they knew what I stood for and so forth. And I got up and I accepted it. I told them that I don't know nothing about politics, but I know just what I want done. So I'll accept that. I didn't think I'd be elected. Lo and behold, I got elected. So that's how I got in there. Now, after I got in, I began to wonder, what can I do here now? Inasmuch as they have played this confidence in me, I should do something in return. And the first thing I thought of was abolishing the fish traps. I was in the House, and I introduced a bill to do away with the fish traps, but I got defeated. One of the top attorneys from Kansas Ministry, Judge Arnold, I don't know if he's alive yet, but I think some of you knew him. He represented the Kansas industry, Judge Arnold, they call him. And I had to talk against a man that was a top lawyer and me with no knowledge of any law, but I knew there was something wrong. I repeat, I got defeated. But lo and behold, I got elected to the Senate, the final election, and they got the idea that we're sick and tired of federal government running our, more or less, running our government up here. Let's become a state. So they introduced a bill for Alaska to become a state. The first thing we had to do was to write a constitution, submit that to the federal government and see if they'd approve it and so forth. Now, when we wrote up, and I got elected as a vice chairman of the committee that wrote up the Constitution of the state, an Indian, Tlingit Indian. So we played our part when we became a state. I say that because I was the vice chairman of it. And I put a language in the Constitution on the fish trap to refer the question to the people of Alaska. Let them vote on it, whether they want fish traps or not. And lo and behold, the committee approved of that language within the submitted Constitution. When that was adopted, when we became a state, this question of abolishing fish traps was referred to the public, and they voted on it, and that's how we got rid of it. The reason I mention that, my dear friends, we've accomplished plenty. We've done wonderful work. Individuals that had fortunate enough to get a little responsibility where they could contribute something to correct it. We did it. They didn't buy us off. We went out and corrected the situation. That's only it. Another one, too, you folks will bear with me, on the women folks. The first time I got a little taste of politics, for some reason I supported Democratic ticket. I didn't know nothing about politics, but I knew the man that was running on the Democratic side, and I supported him. And those older people here, I think you remember Governor Troy. He died long ago, and I don't think most of you people don't know of him. Well, he read about me getting out and campaigning for the ticket. And after the people that I supported got in there, I got a letter from Governor Troy to come to Juneau. So I didn't know what was up. I went up there, and he gave me a job. I was single, a young man, and I accepted. They had a program there whereby the white women, widows with children, could come to this place. They had clothes, food, and everything they could get free. But I didn't ask any questions, and I accepted it. Actually, I needed to work, and that's all it came. But it just is white women. Pardon me for using that expression. And I noticed that there wasn't a single Indian woman who came to get any help and so forth, even though that I was told indirectly that the program was just for the whites only. But anyway, I finally thought it over, and I said to myself, I'm not going to stay on this job. I don't like how they're treating my people. So I went up to the governor's office, Troy, and I told him I'm resigning. He says, why? And I told him, I says, I don't think it's fair. I've been here about a month or 2 months now, and there hasn't been a single Native woman come to get help. And I just found out 2 of them told me they're not eligible. And I don't know why that such a program is being sponsored by this delegation. And he says, Frank, don't resign, he said. I'm going to change that, he said. So he did. So those 2 things that all sticks out in my mind, that I made my little contribution in correcting this 2 events that I mentioned here. Now, I want to speak a little bit about your activities here today. You folks are on the right track. With little experience I had politically, I'm very much encouraged to listen to the speeches that are being made and your leadership expression of what the programs are. And believe me, we got a wonderful future. And I know that you folks are going to stick together and carry this out. Now, fortunately, some of us have served the state of Alaska, and we've made a good record. There's a single individual that served in the legislature has a black mark. You can check on that. They didn't only work for their own conditions. What they did accomplish applied to everybody alike. Whoever you may be, Indian, Swede, or whatever you are. I had Norwegian brother-in-laws too, and they're included in this. Now, most of you have got the history of your Alaska Native Brotherhood and Sisterhood. Now, we got that started, an organization. And believe me, we accomplished plenty. I won't go into detail of some of the evils we corrected to better the conditions for the Indians. But there's one point I want to bring out. There was a man told a story at some meeting I attended in Seattle. I was just out of curiosity, I went into this gathering. It was a union. I think it was Fishermen's Union in Seattle. I went in there, and they discussed matters just like I'm trying to do here. And this chairman said, now he says, we've reached a point where we're going to have to step into politics and correct some of this evils that's been taking place. But it takes all of us working together to correct all of this. And we're going to have to do that. To make my to emphasize my statement, I'll give you an example that I heard some speaker make one time. He said there was a salesman from the East Coast of the United States came to West Coast to sell his product. This is the olden days, horse and buggy days, you call it. And the story goes, it was in San Francisco. And he had to hire horse and buggy and a driver to take him around to the outlying communities to sell his product. And this driver began to show off a little when he was driving. He had this whip, got his horses, and he'd crack that whip, to hit his ear or something like that, and the horse would speed along. And the salesman was very much impressed. And he finally came, he knocked a twig off a tree 2-3 times, and it finally came to a curve. And this salesman was looking up a tree there, and there was something hanging down from the limb, just hanging there. And he says, let me see you crack your whip on that and knock it off. So my friends, it's very true. You got to have an organization to get anywhere, to correct what you think is wrong with your own government and your own program. Now, in conclusion, I want to congratulate you folks again. I'm going back to Seattle. I don't live there, but my health has been taken care of there, and I have to stay there a while. But I'm very much encouraged, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to say a few words to you, because I would never be happy if I left here without congratulating you folks, not because I want to be somebody, but because I'm very much impressed, and you've got an organization that's working together, and you're going to correct all of these things that are not favorable to everybody in Alaska. Thank you very much.